Greetings to everybody. Today we are having our 25th intergenerational meeting. Our topic is what is mentorship and how does it work? Today, being a Sunday, a day for families.
Greetings to everybody. Today we are having our 25th.
I'm afraid we will be having very few number of participants in our session. But anyway, we believe these will be on the YouTube channel, so anyone can watch anytime what we are going to record now. Our guest, Irmak Polat, is great. Let me introduce her with a few words. She's graduated from Yeditepe University Faculty of Medicine in 2010 and completed her psychiatry residency at Ege University between 2011 and 2016. She completed her compulsory government service at the east part of Turkey and later worked in Istanbul Erenköy Psychiatric Training and Research Hospital. She started working later at Istanbul University, Istanbul Faculty of Medicine since 2018. Her main professional interest areas are consultation, liaison psychiatry, psychosomatic disorders, psychiatry education, and community mental health. Dr. Polat works in collaboration with two NGOs. She defines herself as an enthusiast for empowering mental well-being of medical students and healthcare providers, for the empowerment of young healthcare providers. She's been participating in the mentorship project of Association for Supporting Contemporary Life. It's a very famous NGO in Turkey, dealing with students, especially students. Help this association helps students for their supports them for their education. And Dr. Polat is a mentor for 3 female medical students at present, and she continues to be a supervisor of Turkish Medical Students International Committee, Istanbul Faculty of Medicine branch. After this rather short or long, whatever presentation about our dear friend, I'm going to stop sharing this. Yes. Hello, Irmak. Hello, David. And we have 2 other participants, but they are not sharing their views, so we don't see them on YouTube. Yes, may I leave the floor for, Özge is here with us. May I leave the floor to you, or Irmak, please. You can share your presentation, please.
Thank you, Professor Coşkun. Thanks for inviting me to the SEED meeting. I'm so happy to be with you here to share some of my ideas and my experience. Let me share the slides. Okay. So we're going to talk about mentorship. I would rather do my presentation a little bit quick so that we can have time to chat more interactively. So I think mentorship is a rather unknown or underestimated. Basically, I can talk about my country, but I would like to hear more about David's experience in US. Let's begin with why we need mentorship, first of all. The first question is that how and to what extent are the needs of our colleagues and medical students met? I mean, other than the academic curriculum, other than the didactic education. When our colleagues or medical students need help, they may ask their peers for their opinions. They can message them or they can call them. They may reach their trainers personally, asking for help if they want to, or if they feel confident enough to go and reach them. Or they may ask the local national associations for consultations to get answers. But here comes another bunch of questions or problems. Is peer solidarity enough to answer these questions or to help? Are the trainers easily reachable? Can personal issues be discussed? Can enough time be allocated? Can sufficient attention and support be provided? And how about its continuity? And how about its sustainability? So mentorship is an activity which can cover all these problems, I believe. The purpose of mentorship is basically to create a relationship with active participation of the two sides and coming together on a voluntary basis in which progress is made by understanding a certain framework and rules towards achieving a goal. So let's make it simpler. This is a long sentence, I believe, not clear enough. So when we say the mentor and mentee, what do we mean? Who is a mentor? Mentor is a guide, an advisor. Mentor is a person who has a particular knowledge and experience in that particular field, and mentor shares experience and opinions. Mentee is the trainee who is aiming to learn. I think this picture symbolizes the mentorship really nice. I really like to use this picture when I try to talk about mentorship. When we look at the upper part of the iceberg, it may seem like, okay, mentorship activity is composed of sessions that take place over a particular period of time, maybe from a few weeks to months, according to the contract that they made. But the biggest part of the iceberg is under. When we mean mentorship, we believe it's a long journey so that mutual discoveries can be made, both for the mentee and for the mentor. It's not just to meet the acute needs of the mentee, but it is expected to be a transformation that goes beyond that. And it's a cooperation that is not limited to a certain period of time, but it is expected to continue more and more. You may ask, is this mentorship structured? Yes, I think we need to see it as a structured activity, but like what? Let me give the examples. First of all, the mentee determines how much she will benefit from the mentor. Mentee is expected to make the path. So what does she expect from this work? What does she is curious about? What kind of gain that she wants? What does she aim to achieve? So we want the mentee to guide the mentor in the path to get the answers for these questions. And having an agenda is important. What I mean by agenda is that in this work, we expect that a mentee has a topic in mind that she wants to discuss. She brings it to the mentor and they can work on that topic together in their session. The other parts that we can say it's a structured work, there needs to be a contract. But it's not a written or signed contract, of course. It's a verbal contract, which depends on the mutual respect, trust, and loyalty within certain limits. We expect them to have a certain number of meetings. They mutually determine the minimum number, and we expect them to comply it mutually. The Meetings should have particular days and time, which can be specified earlier, so there won't be pop-ups or surprises. First, they can start with individual meetings, but it may change if both parts give approval. For example, if a mentor has more than one mentees, and if both sides approve it, maybe they can be group sessions. The mentor and mentee needs to determine the fast and the feasible method of communication together. So they can reach each other easily with no intermediaries. There can be face-to-face, and thanks to the new era, online meetings. So a mentor can be in another city, in another country. I need to give this example that, that after the February 6th earthquakes, the Psychiatric Association for Turkey started a mentorship program for the psychiatry trainers, the residents in these earthquake areas. And thanks to internet, our friends can reach to mentors in other big cities of Turkey. So it's a great chance. What can be the possible gains for the mentees? First of all, they will gain a close attention and support. They will gain guidance. They will learn from experience. The mentor can help the mentee adapt to the work environment. They can get answers to career-related questions. It can help the mentee to gain self-awareness about her strengths or weaknesses, or her potential. It's a method to support self-confidence of the mentee, to reach new ideas, to get help for goal setting for the future, increase in motivation, and it's also helping networking. So the mentor may introduce the mentee to other professionals that he or she will meet. Also, this mentorship program is supposed to give the responsibility of this relationship, so they will comply. Mentors also benefit from this activity. I think it's the greatest part because as a mentor, I myself gained a lot. It was a great experience for me. Mentors can experience guidance skills. We increase awareness in contact and communication with younger generations, which is very fun for me, I think. Actually, I need to say that I learned new words and new phrases from my younger colleagues that they are using now in their generation. I feel a little bit old when I'm working with them, I must confess. Also, we can learn new approaches from the younger one. Mentors also take the responsibility of a relationship. It's a benefit. Also, it's an altruistic role, supporting a young colleague and playing a role in their development. It really feels great. As last of my slides, I want to say what isn't a mentor and mentee relationship, because it may get confused in some people's minds. What is not, it's important to discuss, I think. It's not a superior or inferior relationship. It's not a teacher to student relationship. It's a relationship which we assume that the emotions should not interfere, because if emotions get involved, there can be shame, boredom, or feeling of obligations, which can be bad for this activity. It is definitely not a free chat. I mentioned it earlier. The mentee needs to bring an agenda about the benefits that she wants to gain. It is not doing a favor. It is not a psychological or psychiatric evaluation. It's not diagnosing. It's not a psychotherapy. It is not a one-sided transmission that only the mentor gives, but It is a relationship. It's a mutual activity. It is not always required that the mentor has to completely answer every question of the mentee. It's like walking along together. It's not a didactic training. It's not a practice with homeworks. And the goal is not to completely resolve the problem, but rather looking at the problem with an experienced trainer or advisor. So this is what I want to say at this presentation. Thank you for listening. You can reach me from these contacts. So let's start sharing our ideas together. I would like to hear from you, your questions or your participations. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Irmak. It was, although a brief one, very compact. I think David is going to say a few words now. Thank you very much. Please, David.
Well, thank you, Omar. That was a very nice overview and description. I honestly believe mentorship is the key to our field. Mentorship is really, and I think you really spelled out the relationship, and it's really not just older. I mean, I have medical students who mentor high school students. We have senior faculty who mentor junior faculty. I can tell you now the greatest joy that I have at this stage of my career is I get to mentor probably 15 or 20 people at different, from mid-level career, early career, residents, medical students, high school students. So I think what you really stated in a very nice, concise way is what mentorship is. It's not just education. It's about learning together. It's about learning to ask the right questions, not always coming up with the answers, because, science is really about asking the next good question. So I think that one of the things that becomes important, and maybe hopefully we can have some discussion on the group today, is how do you find a good mentor? What makes for a good mentor? What are the skills? I know many people who are brilliant in the field, and they write lovely papers, but they're not particularly good mentors. Why is that? And I think what you highlighted in your slides is exactly what we're looking for. A mentor-mentee relationship is just that. It's a relationship. It's a working together with a sense of mutual respect. I think the mentor has to always respect the mentee, and the mentee respect the mentor. Usually the problem goes, sometimes I've run into mentors who don't really understand, and I think you really underscored it very nicely, that the mentee has a lot to offer, particularly now when the role of technology is growing, and many of the younger mentees, whether they're high school students, university students, medical students, whatever, they are much more comfortable with using electronic medical records, with using technology, with having an understanding of the role of social media, because it's part of their life. They engage in it. So I've learned a great deal from the mentees that I have, particularly the younger ones. And I go down to quite young mentees because we learn from each other. So I believe mentorship is really one of those things that we can make and shape a career. I don't know anyone, and I've been in the field like Bulan for over 40 years, that can't name the mentors that made an impact in their career. Sometimes the bad mentors say, I never want to be like that person. So we can learn from the good and the bad. But I think most of us will say that we can look back over our careers, maybe from a very young age, all the way up on through, and say, it was a particularly effective mentor that got me excited. I think what mentors do, what I always try to do, is engage a passion. I want my mentees to never lose the passion, whether it's to be a teacher, a clinician, an educator. I mean, we're talking about professionally. As you say, this is not psychotherapy. This isn't life skills training. And I'm really glad you brought that up. But the role of a mentor, I believe, and again, I've had the great fortune of doing this for a very long time. When I'm successful as a mentor, what I do is fuel those passionate fires for wanting to be the best someone can be. And again, you can mentor clinical work. As you are, I was a CL psychiatrist. I did my first fellowship in consultation liaison way back in the very early 1980s. And when I look at my mentors, they were all the people that had me feel good about, ask the questions, but that it was okay to make a mistake as long as it was that we learn from our mistakes, and that what we do is a team. And yeah, just like as many of you know, I'm very much involved in the world of sport. Well, no good sporting team is just one person. Even if you're in a solo sport, if you're a diver or swim, you have coaches and you have physical trainers and you have sports mental health people. So I think mentorship is something that it's critical, and I would challenge anyone who has been successful to say, so you've had no mentors. Everyone says, and I think it's a very special and unique bond. I'm still mentoring a number of people who are very active in our section because I got to know them 5-6 years ago, and it's a very unique. We've had some very senior members of WPA come on our calls, who have talked about how important mentorship was for them. Norman Sartorius, who was I know Norman has had an impact both on Bulan and I, but he now views that and always has as a mentor is one of the most important things that he does. And it's really about doing something together to promote the quality of what it is that we're dedicated to do, whether it's to teach, to diagnose, to train, to do research. So I think this would be a wonderful, I think, opportunity, and hopefully we have a few more on the session now, to people to ask about what should they be looking for. How do you find a good mentor? If you are a mentor, how do you make yourself better as a mentor? I know a lot of people who are brilliant and they're not very good teachers, and maybe they're not very good mentors. I think just about everyone has the capacity to be an effective mentor. And as you said so beautifully, it is something of joy. To have that mentor-mentee relationship can be, to me, it's the highlight of my day and my week when I get on my one-on-one mentorships. Unfortunately, some of the things I do, we have to do group mentorships where you're just not enough mentors. So we have 4 or 5 or 6. But I think it really follows the guidelines that you said. It's not psychotherapy, but it's about sharing experience and expertise. It's a two-way street. I think it is the key. Has been, and no matter what happens with AI and ML and all the technology, I think mentorship will continue to be the constant that allows our field to generate the next generation of leaders in whatever aspect of the field that they go into. So maybe let's, and I'd love to hear from, because I know many of you know, I certainly know my dear friend Bulan. We have worked together. It's been my joy for so many years, but he has been a terrific mentor to many people, but in a way that it's not like, I am Professor Korstian. He shares his experience, his wisdom, his compassion, his empathy, and always learning from the students at whatever level. So why don't we see, I hopefully we do get a few more people on. I see some of my old dear friends and colleagues who we've had a chance to work with. Aslihan, who taught me a lot when we were doing things, when she was contributing to some books, and but it really is this wonderful thing where we can learn from each other. And what a joy, because at the end of the day, we're all social animals. And anyone who doesn't like to be with other people, we start putting diagnostic labels on them, right? If someone doesn't want to be around. So mentorship is just so critical. And I think you really did a really nice job of highlighting kind of what it is and what it isn't. And I truly believe this is the key to the success of our fields, of really all scientific fields, certainly psychiatry, moving forward.
Thank you very much, Dave. You have put all the necessary things together. Thanks a lot. Aslan, would you like to say a few words on this topic, which I know you're a very good mentor as well?
Hi, everybody. It was both very interesting discussions, I should say. Thank you, Irmak. It was kind of brief but compact, as Bülent Hoca said. And Dave, as always, was amazing. Quite unstructured, but at the same time, very intense experiences, I believe. Yeah, I agree. But I think the main thing with mentorship is the willingness to share. I mean, because it's kind of, it really needs that you must be really willing and genuinely wanting to share your experiences, because in my perspective or in my experience, actually, if your mentor is not very really willing to share, it's kind of like a teacher-student relationship. It's so structured, you just share experiences, but you need to know the person, the mentee, very well. You need to empathize, and you need to even understand what she doesn't or he doesn't say. And maybe he doesn't or she doesn't notice. I always say she, I prefer most of the time the she mentees to work with, because I believe there's a dearth of mentors for the she mentees. So, and for example, I will just say that sometimes it's not quite structured, and even not a very long session or long relationship, because I remember when I was a resident in one of the World Psychiatric Congresses, I think I was a second year resident, I attended a mentorship session for female psychiatrists. I don't remember who was the mentor actually, but it was a very intense session with lots of small tips about future career plans of the female psychiatrist who wants to concentrate on women's mental health. One of the things she said was, because it was like maybe 25 years ago or something like that, she said, women's mental health is not taken seriously among our colleagues. So if you want to work on women's mental health, you need to choose a certain other topic, a major topic in your career. And it was then I decided to work on bipolar disorders as my so-called main topic. And as a side topic, which is real main topic, is women's mental health. It was just, one session, but kind of shaped and framed all my future career then. And I'm really grateful for that. So I think the main thing is just, first of all, be willing to share your experiences genuinely and to know the mentee very well. Because if you just leave it to the mentee, especially when working with the young people, they might not know the opportunities or the possibilities, what will come in future, or what they are capable of. If you don't know what you can want, you cannot ask for it. So there must be somebody who knows you very well, who observes you very well, who tries to know you better and can kind of offer opportunities or, the possibilities before you ask, I believe. Thank you, but this is my style, as you can guess. We are in a small group and everybody knows my kind of both pragmatic and authoritative style, let's say. Hi again, by the way, Dave.
Well, thank you, Aslı. And here we have Rachel as well. So nice to see you. Welcome.
Apologies to be late.
No, you're welcome. We will be hearing your thoughts about mentorship, of course. And we have Özge among us, and a student participant does not open her video, so we can't see her face, but she can contribute if she likes, of course. Before going to what other friends will say, can I ask Irmak first? David mentioned coaching. What does What is the difference between coaching and mentoring? Could you say a few words about that? Maybe the other friends may also share their views.
Okay. Yeah, coaching is very popular term nowadays, and it can be confused. I mean, when I was talking about mentorship, I often get this question: what's the difference with coaching? First of all, coaching is like people get a coaching certificate from some institution, etc. And a coach doesn't have to be specifically trained in that field. But when we say mentor, we mean that this mentor is experienced working in that particular field. It's a well-trained person. So, but a coach can come from another education and can coach let's say, a manager from a company. That's, I think, the difference. I believe coaching, as far as I know from coaching, is more about asking questions to the client. I use the word client on purpose, by the way. Coach asks the client, which we assume that the client can has the answers or can find the answers his own. But when we are mentoring a mentee, a mentor can also guide and share the opinions, share the experience, help the mentee to be trained. So, of course, within certain limits. I think, but the other thing is that, as Aslan Polat said, mentorship is a voluntary activity, but coaching is a job where the client pays for the coach. So I think that is another difference. We expect the mentor to guide the mentee, but we expect the coach to walk with the clients on the way. I believe these are the differences. But I would like to hear more from David or Rachel, their opinions.
Thank you. Thank you, Irmak. Would you like to say a few words, Rachel?
Yes. I mean, I don't know the answer. I don't really know what a coach does. I've not. I think I did once have a coach. He was the husband of a friend of mine, and he was establishing himself as a coach, and he wanted some people to practice on. So he saw me for a few sessions as a practice. But yes, and he was a very general person who didn't really understand the parameters of where I was working. At that stage, I was just starting the WHO Collaborating Centre and struggling to raise money for the work that I wanted to do, and applying for grants and so on. And this coach could not believe that the job had been set up with no money. and so, yes, so I don't think he was that much help, really. He spent all his time being surprised. I think I'm not sure it's for me, it's not a very important question. You want people who are supportive, who will listen to you and come up with good ideas, really, to help along the way. And one of the most helpful things that was ever said to me was by the husband of my mother's best friend, who was a man who started off running Sainsbury's in the UK, where I think he was a manager for Monsanto Chemicals, then he ran Sainsbury's, and then he advised our former Prime Minister, Mrs. Thatcher, about the health service. And I'm not sure I agree with what he ultimately did, which was to split health and social care. But anyway, the really helpful thing he said to me one day, and I should say, he was just invited to dinner. He wasn't invited as a mentor or a coach or anything. But he said to me, and I had just joined our Ministry of Health at the time, and he told me a story of when Sainsbury's was having trouble getting to the, Sainsbury's is a supermarket that distributes food around the UK. And there was a period when they were having trouble getting the food to the shops on time. And of course, this is really important because you don't want the food to go off. And he called in the transport manager and he said, "What do you think your job is?" And the transport manager looked a bit mystified and said, "Well, it's to get the goods to the shop. Sorry, I'm spoiling the story now. He said it's to manage the transport department. And this chap, Roy Griffiths, said, "No, you're wrong. Your job is to get the goods to the shops on time." Right. And I think that's a very helpful way of framing your jobs, as it were, and what you want to achieve. It's not to kind of manage the next group of people down. It's to really focus on the outcomes, to get the outcomes delivered. And that has been a message that's kind of stayed always with me. So he was like a good psychotherapist. He thought of the one intervention that was going to make the huge difference, really. And so to me, that was good mentorship for my time in our Ministry of Health for 10 years and thereafter, is you've got to focus on your outcomes that you want to achieve. That's your job, not just to tootle along with the processes in a quiet sort of way. Otherwise, I think the distinction, I'm sorry, I kind of arrived late and I've missed the gems that have come before, but I think mentorship is a bit different at which stage in life you're doing it, whether you're talking to students or supporting people in the early stages of their career or mid-career. Recently I was asked to mentor a group of Pakistani psychiatrists and psychologists who were working on a big systematic review of mental health policy in low and middle income countries. And I was asked to join this group, and I'd never met any of them before. And it was actually, I found it a really difficult task, working out over Zoom, who was who, in what kind of order of what the hierarchy was, if any. And I was kind of operating without the hierarchy, and I did it for a year, but it was one of the most tricky tasks of mentorship I've ever had, really, to support them to get to the end stage. So I don't know if that's very helpful. I'll stop and gather my thoughts again. It's very early here in the morning.
It's very late in LA. I actually think coaching, when we talk about a mentor, a mentee, you wear many different hats. I think saying it's not just any one thing. It's like understanding, genetics. It's never just one gene. It's a combination of many genes. I believe a good mentor, there are times when you do coaching. And I come from the sports world, so coaching has a very different connotation. I think the good mentor is the one who has the flexibility that can coach when coaching is necessary. That there are, and to me, good mentors use their experience and their expertise to know when they need to be. Sometimes mentees need very specific advice on something. Sometimes the mentee might need to think it through. So your role of a mentor is to make sure, are they really doing what they really want to do or what they think they should do? So I think the role of a coach, it's not that it's a separate, I think one can be a coach and not be a mentor. I found very few instances, again, in 4 decades of doing mentorship at a variety of levels, where there aren't some times that I feel like I am doing a little coaching, but it's not just that. So I think mentorship is this really wonderful, complicated, integrated relationship between the mentee and the mentor. And I think Rachel raised a really good point, and that's getting to know who you're working with. We all know that there's certain styles that are going to allow that mentee to achieve their goals. And the goals might be in a variety of different areas. So to me, doing it without getting to know someone it's like going to do a lecture and you don't know who your audience is. Am I lecturing to ministers of health? Am I lecturing to high school students? Am I lecturing to the general public? Or am I lecturing to the senior faculty at Oxford? Or at the University of Istanbul. So we always want to know who it is that we're presenting to so that we can adapt our message to kind of be appropriate. So I think trying to say, well, what's coaching? A good mentorship, I think, includes the capacity and the ability to know when to be in each of that roles. Because what, at the end of the day, as Rachel pointed out, is we're trying to help our mentee achieve success and then help them to ask the right questions if they're a scientist, but of themselves. And I think mentorship, we brought up about with women. One of the things I think was a very serious problem many years ago was there weren't enough available women mentors. I've mentored many, women, and I've always enjoyed it. But I've always tried to say I cannot understand specifically some of the stresses you might have when you're wearing the role of maybe a mother or of a wife, and different social world. So yes, I can still mentor you and we can talk about this, but I honestly believe being able to get a mentor who can maybe relate to what it was like maybe being the only woman in a room of men, and some of those power, that's changing dramatically. And 55% of all medical students in the US now are women. I think the numbers are fairly similar worldwide, that it has gone from becoming a male dominated profession to having, in many parts of the world, more women. So there are more women mentors available. Rachel is far too modest to say, but she's been a wonderful mentor to many students, even those that she didn't know maybe she was formally mentoring, because they were watching her. They were watching how she did things in a very classy way, very effective. She stood for doing things honorably and ethically. So sometimes you mentor overtly, but sometimes to do some mentorship covertly, for someone. And I think that's why we should probably spend less time saying, well, are you a coach? Or this? No, we're there to promote the goals, the career goals, the effectiveness of the people we're working with. And sometimes we do it one-on-one, but I can tell you, Norman did this. Rachel's done this for so many years, the fine work that she's done, not just in the UK, but around the world, as being a mentor, just by people watching and observing how she does things and say, I want to be like her. To me, that's indirect mentorship as well.
Gosh, thank you, David, for those very kind words. Yes, and likewise for yourself.
Well, I also liked, I think Kashmir will say a few things. She's the only medical student among us. Thank you for being with us, Kashmir.
You're welcome, Dr. Joshkin. Actually, I wanted to add something that for all of those who don't know me, actually, we started a society, mental health society, in our medical school for last 2 years, and it's called Socrates, Students Organization for Counseling, Rehabilitation, Art Therapy, Education, and Support. And I would like to add that we actually started a mentorship program through that society as a separate domain last year. And through that mentorship program, our aim was to help students orient themselves. It was actually the mentors were the seniors of the school, and the faculty included. And the purpose was to orient themselves, the newcomers, the juniors who are like in their first year of the medical school, to really decide about their careers, on how to get the most out of the medical school, on which societies to participate, on what kind of research to conduct, and how to find a group of people of your similar interest and make the most of it. Like we saw many of us have wasted a lot of time in medical school, which could have been gone into productive things. So we started this program, and first of all, we interviewed many people to be the mentors, and it was a group mentorship. One mentor had almost 4 to 5 mentees, and we compiled a lot of educational resources that were available, and made an online library for the things. We actually compiled a lot of information that the juniors might need to channel themselves to the medical school. But the problem that I encountered was there was a lot of problem with the leadership of the mentors. It was the training of the mentors, because everything was new to us, and in our school we hardly find any good mentorship and good example of mentorship, because so professors are generally very, there's a like hierarchy kind of system, and our professors are generally very unapproachable and unaccessible, and they don't like to spend time with their students, and they are like well guarded, their offices are well guarded, and this thing really like irritates me, like we cannot learn the things that Dr. David said, that the uh, job of the mentor is to share the experiences, to make them learn about the things that they haven't experienced yet, but that thing is very much absent in our society, in our medical schools in Pakistan. uh, so we wanted to bring that change. Also that program eventually crashed. I mean, there's we are still struggling, we are trying to keep that on road, but the main point is was the training of the mentors. We couldn't get the right training for the mentors, the right leadership skills, the uh, conduct, the how to deal with their colleagues, juniors, these kinds of things that hinder the process of a good mentorship, like the presentation by the Dr. Ermak, that it's not there are certain limitations, not a student teacher relationship, and it's not those kind of things. You have to really get to know that person. If there was problems with the time management and other things, so I think we what I want is that there should be something, kind of a presentation on how to be a good mentor, actually, the things that are required in a good mentor. And it was very informative session, and I learned a lot of things from all of you. Thank you very much.
We thank you a lot, Kashmir. You have summarized your experiences through Socrates program. Thank you. Thank you very much. Özge, would you like to say? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, first
Please.
of all, I want to thank Irmak for the very brief and good presentation. Sometimes brief can be better, and this time it was very good. Thank you. And after listening to the presentation, my thoughts changed, because I always thought the mentorship as a responsibility. But when I listened to Irmak and then the other Dr. Bayron's and Dr. Jenkins's experiences, I understood that it's also an enjoyable, deep, and special process, and it's also not nourishing the mentee, also the mentor. It's a very special bond, I think, between them, and it's a very good chance to have a good mentor. But when I listened to Kashmina, I realized that there are so many things to do about mentorship in different countries. Maybe in the future, by working together and helping, like Kashmina and other students, friends, we can make it better. I hope so. Thank you for your sharings.
Yeah, thank you, Özge. Thank you very much. May I ask to all of you, has any one of you who has acted as mentors gone through an education program of how to mentor? Please, Irmak, let's start with you.
Okay, I started my mentorship with that NGO, as I told you. So in the first place, they interviewed with us. Then they made a online education program for 2 days. It was, first of all, the definition of mentorship and how to put limits, how to be professional, they taught us some communication skills. Actually, that NGO is not just for medical faculties. We're a group, like there are engineers there are like managers, some like bank accountants. It's a heterogeneous group. So some of the things that I knew from my education, of course, from my psychiatry education, but I think it was very helpful for the ones who didn't know so much about good listening, good communication, how to be empathetic, how to actively listen. And they also gave just particular points about leadership, but not much, but a little bit leadership skills. So it was very helpful. I believe, as Kashmina said, a mentor should know what she or he is going to do, how to set limits, how to be an active and empathetic listener. I think these are the most important points. Thank you.
Thank you, Irmak. I think you are the only one who has gone through training.
I think David also raised his hand.
David has, both, I think. Please, David.
Yeah, I actually went through part of my graduate training. After I finished my residency, I went back to graduate school in education, and we had a whole course on how to become a mentor, but then how to find good mentors. And I really appreciate the comment from our student. Just because someone is a brilliant researcher or a highly respected clinician or administrator doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be a good mentor. So I think one of the things that's important is there should be some training in being a mentor. When I was at the NIMH, we had many of our senior faculty. We actually ran a course. So if you wanted to be a senior mentor as part of the NIH fellowship, you had to go through a course on how to be a good mentor. And many of these were Nobel laureate quality scientists. So I think we assume that because someone is highly experienced or is well recognized as a senior in the field, that they're necessarily a good mentor. I think there are certain personality characteristics that makes one a better mentor maybe than others. I think anybody can learn to be an adequate mentor. Some are always going to be maybe a bit more, because I think it's hard to teach passion. And I believe good mentorship, if you can show that, not everyone needs to be over the top passionate, but I think a passion and a joy and a sense of, we're honored to be able to do what we do, to be able to help people, to train the next generation, to interact, that mindset of an attitude of gratitude in being able to do this. So I really believe that we should be looking more at creating, particularly as technology advances, creating good, well-trained mentors and training our students at whatever level to know, how do I find a good mentor? What should I be looking for in a good mentor? What are the skills, the characteristics? What are the things that can help me? Because as I said earlier, I believe a good mentor can have a very important role in the trajectory of one's career and one's success.
Yeah, I never had a training personally on mentorship. But I had been mentored without the name, the concept. Well, can we hear what Rachel will share with us?
Thank you, Bülent. I wanted to just for a moment raise the specific issue of PhD supervision, which in a way is a sort of a subset of mentorship, I suppose, in a way. And often I think it's done awfully badly, and PhD students can fall by the wayside because they're not getting enough support from their supervisor and a mentorship about how to find one's way through the morass, really, and come out the other end. And doing a PhD is, it's a huge amount of work, and very important that people don't sort of collapse halfway, really. So so I was just flagging it up as an example of things that some of us do badly, really. and that we should have proper training to do, and it not just I hear stories quite frequently of friends' children and doing other subjects who've might have had a brilliant PhD supervisor, but they have not been a good, they have not done the supervision aspect well. They've been a brilliant scientist, but not a good PhD supervisor. And I think another point I wanted to make is one shouldn't just settle for one mentor. Try and find several en route as you go through your career. And different people add different things and different sorts of role models, And some of the people who've been wonderfully influential on me have been rather prickly characters. They haven't always been that nice, really, but they've nonetheless managed to have a huge influence. So I think that's another reason to try and go for several. I think us older women had no female mentors. They weren't around, really. So we had to put up with male mentors for better or worse. But it's good now that there are some women around that you can have some female mentors too. Yes, and maybe that was one of the reasons why I felt you kind of needed several, not just one. Um, and some people are better at different stages of life than others, Um, so I think that's helpful. And yes, as you get kind of further on in your careers, your peers are also helpful. That's the other thing. They've also sometimes gone through similar experiences and can help. So so I would spread your net wide as you're thinking about mentors. Yeah. Sorry, that's all my thoughts will come up with at the minute.
Thanks a lot. Özge, would you like to say anything?
I was thinking my experience about this when I was in faculty. I had a mentor also. He was very open-minded to meeting and speaking and sharing my problems, but I think he didn't know what to do about mentorship. When I listened to you about trainings, maybe he didn't take the training because I would like to have a mentorship about the evolving of my academic career, but it was like um, helping and listening, something like that. And I was thinking about that when Kashmina said she couldn't find a good mentor. Do we have to select the mentors, or do we have to select the mentees from our faculty or from our country? Can it be international if a mentor would like to help a mentee? I want to ask this one. Because I thought that some countries have a better mentorship experience. Maybe they would like to share them with countries like Pakistan, I thought.
I think it depends on what kind of mentorship you are looking for. Actually, the mentorship program that we started was because in our area there's very much there's a communication gap between different years and different like senior, juniors, and staff and faculty. So when a student enters a medical school, they have zero to none expectations and or imagination on what's going to happen. So it was actually to how to navigate the medical school, and every medical school has a different criteria, different policies, and different uh, uh, procedures. You know how to interact with different things. And actually our program was inspired by another university who who is conducting this program very successfully for years. And our main actually we had different coordinators like the academic coordinator, the sports coordinator, the co-curricular activities coordinator, and the research coordinator. The research part was a bit successful actually. We managed to publish 3 to 4 research works as well through the mentorship program. The mentors mentored the mentees, and they were able to work in groups and do the get that research experience. Uh, uh, the question about if whether we can get a mentor from the same country or international, like I have a mentor from another university for the research purpose. He's a person who is well experienced in the research, and he has peer communications in the research works. That person is entirely in different province and different university, but I get to learn a lot from his part of the experience, from his skill set. For different skills, of obviously one person can't be perfect in all of the skills. So yeah, in different skills you might need different mentors, but the mentorship program I am talking about it was limited to the college level.
Thank you very
for
much.
the answer, Kashmir.
Thank you. And now that we are coming to the end of our session, may I ask a last question for all of you? What can we do for our seed program to promote this mentoring issue, or how can we run a training program for mentoring? Who would like to start? David May.
Well, maybe we should start by asking the students, what do they view the role of mentorship to be? Do they feel comfortable in finding a good mentor? How do they identify someone who's going to be a good mentor? Because I think Rachel said something very important, particularly with PhDs. I've literally seen some PhD candidates whose career I think were actually ruined by having very bad mentors. They were just used to kind of support their mentors lab, and it's I find it quite disturbing. So I believe maybe a session asking the students how important they think this is, because maybe they don't realize that this is a really critical part of your development, can make a very positive impact on promoting your career, whatever aspect you choose. Ask them, do they feel comfortable in knowing how to find a good mentor? How do you approach a potential mentor? Again, this is not the same as someone who's teaching, a psychotherapy course or psychopharmacology. A mentor is a little bit different than just a teacher, a lecturer per se. So I think asking our students, and what could we do as senior members now or mid-level to help them to pursue their opportunities to find good mentors. And I'm not just talking about, I think Rachel mentioned, not just to be their best friend, but someone who's going to be effective, that they're going to have confidence in. And not that we're doing psychotherapy, but let's be honest, when we're doing psychotherapy with the patient, we're not there to be our patient's friend, but we're certainly always there to try to help the patient. And if the patient feels like we're there for them, it will make the experience better for both the patient and the therapist or the physician. So I think this is such an important area. This should maybe be a topic of main interest moving forward, is how can we help our students, if they feel they need and want to help, get more mentors. And again, Rachel said something that I think we need to underscore is, don't look to have one mentor do everything. You might have a mentor that's helping you with the research side of your career, maybe one that's helping with with building a practice. So I think mentorship is not like a marriage where you're looking for one partner and that's it. But mentorship, to me, I can look back for many mentors I had. Some were very good in teaching me one aspect of the career, and another mentor in something else So you want to get as many good mentors as you can, because there are many aspects and many facets to what we do in our professional lives.
Thank you. Yeah, as a member of the SEED group, Rachel, would you like to suggest any way of handling this issue? Rachel, would you like to say anything?
Asking me. I don't know, it's challenging because obviously there are a large number of potential mentees and a smaller number of potential mentors. So how do you do it? And I think that one just has to sort of take the opportunities really, as you can. It's very difficult to set up a major kind of international program for all psychiatry students. So some of it needs to be local, but I think what you're doing, Bulent, is effectively mentorship through the SEED program, you know. So this is a wonderful, unique initiative. And I don't know how many students tune in, whether we have some idea of how many watch and
We can,
participate.
I'm afraid we can hope that they will go over this recording. We only have one among us, but a very active one. So thanks a lot to you, Kashmir.
Yes. I think that all the points David's made have been really important. And the other thing I wanted to say was that we still continue to use mentorship as we navigate our careers. And at the moment, I'm meeting a colleague once a month who is quite a lot younger than me. She's worked in international development for about 20 years. And I find it really helpful to have an hour's chat with her once a month. And she finds it really helpful to have a chat with me once a month, because I'm much older and I've gone through more terrible life events, as it were, and so on, and come out the other side. So we're actually engaging in a bit of mutual mentorship and support once a month. And we've been doing this for nearly a year now, and both want to continue because it's very helpful. And we've just finished revising a chapter together, you know. So it's partly work focused, but we also discuss generic work issues, family issues, and so on, and in an integrated way. So I think you can benefit from mentorship all through your life, as well as being able to be supportive to colleagues in interesting ways. So I think that's all I would say. The other thing I just wanted to pass on, which I think was one helpful thing that I was able to say to my team when I was in the Department of Health, the Ministry of Health, over the years, because life was often very difficult. We were always meeting obstacles all the way. And I learned through bitter experience, but it was a helpful thing to be able to say to the others. It's kind of, don't give up. It's a sort of drip, drip effect. You know, when stalactites come down from the ceiling of a cave and they're dripping and wearing away stone underneath. And if you keep going, you get there. But it often takes at least 3 years to achieve something. The first year they're always arguing with you. The second year they ask you questions. And the third year it's their idea. And then you've won. And so that's the other aspect of mentorship. Don't always aim to get credit for something. If you've just achieved it, whoever gets the credit, you've won, really. So I think there are some kind of generic mentorship messages which can be helpful, as well as the specifics. Sorry for wittering on.
Thank you. Thank you. I know we have other friends in the seed group who couldn't attend this meeting due to family engagements. We have Eugene and Rodrigo. Probably they will share their views through our correspondence. Please, Özge.
For the seed, what about having a meeting about peer mentoring?
Peer
For
mentoring.
peer mentoring, yeah. Maybe a session about peer mentoring, they would be interested, the medical students would be interested in. What is it? What should we expect? Like that. Maybe they can share their experiences, but I don't know. I wanted to ask just, I'm not very experienced about this.
Did I understand correctly? You say peer mentoring.
Peer mentoring, yeah, between the students. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Would David like to say anything about this, or maybe we can communicate through writings later?
No, I mean, as Rachel said, I think you can have mentors from a lot of, I think you can, there certainly can be peer mentorship. To me, the issue is how can you get the support group, that would include, I mean, I think there's an advantage to having mentors at different areas. I think the key to a mentorship is having a sense of confidence in the ability and the knowledge. You don't want a mentor who said, well, this is a nice person, a nice lady, a nice guy, but they really don't know what they're talking about. I mean, that's not going to be a particularly effective mentor. So I think if there's a sense of respect and feeling that the mentor has something important to offer and that you want to listen and work together, I think mentorship and being a mentor and a mentee is a team activity. I think Rachel really said it very nicely, that sometimes the mentor can become the mentee. That happens to me regularly. I have many of my mentors who will start mentoring me about social media and about what's happening and getting, the message, what are the key issues for students who are younger than my children now. So I think the good mentor is one that always wants to learn, is always willing to share their experience in a professional and appropriate and an ethical way, but also respects and really welcomes the opportunity to be mentored by your mentee in something that maybe you don't have the expertise or experience in. And certainly for me, IT-related issues and social media is something that I always appreciate and will ask my mentees to help me understand so that we can work together.
Thanks a lot. Before closing, let's have the words of Irmak. We started with you, and let's end with you, Irmak.
Yeah, there's nothing much to say afterwards, but as your question, how can we make it more motivated for this mentorship? I thought that talking about it more and more and sharing our experiences more and more, we can start an interest to for the ones who don't have any idea. So I think this webinar was a good start. We can continue about sharing our experiences so that people would know it and get interested, I think.
A very good summing up. Thank you all for being with us. I hope watching will be useful in the future. Thanks a lot.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you. See you.
Bye. Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy holidays. Mm-hmm. I think one of the things that struck me was that you actually do get a lot of support from when you're a student from other students. There's a lot of peer support around because you tend to be a very close group, kind of battling together. But when one becomes a consultant, it can suddenly be a very lonely life. And you're running around with huge responsibilities. And and I think often that's where mentorship is not in place, but would be really important for sort of early stage consultants who suddenly their own peer support kind of drops away. You know, people have moved to different parts of the country, etc., and it can be a very challenging role with different things to negotiate than when you're a junior doctor. You know.
Rachel, I think that's such an important point. When you're a student, you've got all these built-in supports. You've got mental health support, you've got mentor, faculty you can go to. I think for the very early career, when all of a sudden you don't have that, you're dealing with business issues and personal relationships. So I think you're right. I think many more of the mentors I've had recently are either early career or even mid-career who are, they're looking at promotion or they're struggling, do I want to put in what it takes to become a leader and play the political side of things or to focus on family life. And I think you're absolutely right. I think, that I love the fact that we're not just talking about mentors for students, which is clearly important, but sometimes I think where the mentorship is needed because it's not as readily accessible is for the junior researcher, the junior public health officer. How do you negotiate, whether you're a clinician or an educator, because I think it can become quite isolating pretty quickly if you're in solo practice. You get busy with life. So I think that's a really, really good point that sometimes we don't put enough emphasis on is giving the support and the mentorship. Well, you've graduated now, you've taken your boards, you've got your first job. So now what do I do? To help people navigate that. And I think this is where I really love the fact that there are so many more women mentors, because I think, when I've mentored women in the past, how can I say, yeah, I can relate to what it's like to being a young mother or, a relatively new wife and, those careers, I can try to be empathetic, but I'd be stupid to say, yeah, I know exactly what you're going through. So I think particularly having female mentors or minority mentors, if you have people who are from minority groups, it's quite an issue here in the States. But that not just for the student, but for that early to mid, and then even mentors in leadership, So I'm doing with some of my colleagues who, should I retire? What am I going to do if I retire? They're having a hard time, leaving leadership roles because that's what they've known for the last 10 or 15 years. So I think mentorship is really important throughout the professional lifestyle. I think you're spot on.
Yes, and certainly it's different at each stage in life, isn't it? And one can benefit from hearing other people's experiences and how they've navigated problems. And I think an issue that I've sort of always found difficult through life is navigating the politics of the work. The actual work is not so difficult. It's the surrounding politics that one finds oneself embroiled in, that it could be very helpful to have some mentorship in.
And the politics change because sometimes the politics we thought we knew, it's a different world. I mean, COVID did that, but there are many other things, I even know a lot of this, the attitude of students. I mentor some of our, early and mid-career educators, and students have a very different role, at least in the States. I can't speak for the US so much. A little bit, I've seen this in some of the other countries. I've done some work in a bit more Egypt, for example. But I think this generation of students is different than what we went through. Now, it's not right or wrong, but clearly different. So I think you're right. It's we might feel comfortable and confident in our core knowledge base, but how does it relate in this changing world and our role? So I think, this is, like they used to say in cardiology, it's AFib, it's irregularly irregular sometimes. The politics change and we thought we knew what it was, or we had planned our careers on doing it one way and things just changed. So we have to be able to pivot. And I think that the ability to be flexible, knowing that things, the one thing we can probably count on is that it's probably not going to be the same. What's AI and social media? I mean, these are things that are going to change, but how do we navigate those in a way that we can maintain the quality of our professional life?
Yeah.
We are still on broadcasting, three of us. I think one of the things Irmak said while summing up, and you said, Rachel, we are trying to do this process of training ourselves throughout the seed activities. Although for the time being, we have very few students being active, but let's hopefully wait for others to join in. Now, I will stop broadcasting.